Hello, this is another video that goes over how to draw the ellipse, which is the circle in perspective, in this case a bowl. First thing we need to think about is the front-back to left-right relationship when we look at the object. Just kind of reviewing here a little bit from the other videos in terms of how to measure that stuff. So you have essentially 4 points on an ellipse: the front, the back, the left, and the right. And then you try to connect those dots to create the perfect elliptical form. This is generally the viewpoint I took in the drawing that I'm going to be demonstrating. So I needed to figure out to begin with what the front-back versus left-right relationship is. The front-back's usually shorter than the left-right. In this case, there's 1.5. Okay, so this drawing that I'm going to make is based on that relationship, front to back, left to right, 1 to 1.5. Now, the way I'm going to make this drawing is a little different than the other drawing in the previous video. This one I'm going to build very slowly using the scribble technique. So I'm going to kind of just focus on building the edges and the forms in the drawing over a long period of time by lightly scribbling on the drawing. So, I kind of pre-measured that, the object that I was looking at, which is this bowl sitting on a kind of a larger platter or larger plate. And then just start to kind of carve away at the drawing by just shading in general forms that when seen together start to create the overall sense of the shape of the bowl. Now this technique is really difficult to use in relation to creating an elliptical form, but I kind of like using this because it doesn't, you don't rely on hard edge to create the volumetric quality of the vessel, in this case the tapered cylinder or the bowl. Now you can see there I kind of generally was making notes to myself in terms of the front, back versus left to right as I developed the image, but it's not as clear cut certainly as the way I demonstrated in the previous drawing in regards to making those kind of outlines. So there's kind of two ways to approach this, and it'd be kind of nice if you could kind of experience both of those. Working this way is very difficult, but I think it creates a much more nuanced drawing in the long run, one that's kind of more evocative of the volumes and the shapes involved in this image. This drawing took me about, 4.5 hours maybe to create. Of course, I've sped it up. So you can kind of see just a general sense of the image starting to emerge. And then this case, the interior of the bowl was much brighter than the sides because of that idea of the convex nature of the planes in the interior. The light comes down and catches the interior, and then the concave sides of the exterior fold underneath, right? So they're going to not catch as much light. So I'm just kind of pushing and pulling the drawing in terms of the lights and darks here. And seeing it as an overall composition. You can kind of almost see the large plate starting to emerge that the bowl is setting on. And I think I'll probably use a 2B or something like that to begin with here, and then I move, I think, to a 4B and then a 6B, and kind of go back and forth between those two pencils, or three hardnesses of pencil. again, moving around the drawing quite a bit, not locking any edge in, just starting to get a sense of the way the light is playing across the surfaces involved. It's a much different way of working. We'll be working on this, using this technique for this week's project and next week's project, and maybe the last project, depending on, that's going to be more of an open drawing, so however you want to kind of approach that. But this is a really pretty interesting way of working. It's a pretty traditional way. It's reminiscent of cross-hatching in that you're using tiny little marks to kind of a network of small little scribbles, very lightly drawn, to interlock and build value up, just the same as you would with the cross-hatching. The only difference is that it's a freer kind of drawing process. It kind of allows you to move in any direction at any given time, so you can kind of loop around an edge if you want to. See, as I did there a little bit, kind of just throw some kind of really light looping lines around to kind of echo that curve of that open bowl. And the other aspect of this is that you gain kind of like the charcoal drawings in a certain way, gain resolution of edge over time. You kind of chip away at things, and you allow the edges to kind of form over a long period of time. Now there I'm kind of doing the little cast shadow that's underneath the bowl. This is such an elevated view of this bowl that we really don't see the kind of foot of the bowl, that little kind of point that it sits on. But we do see the cast shadow that it creates. So right there, I'm, in the front part, I'm trying to kind of show the bottom of the bowl by just darkening in along the edge a little bit and backfilling into the cast shadow area, a little bit at a time. You don't want to kind of be in a hurry with the drawing. Again, this took me about 4 hours to do. But you can see how slowly it starts to develop, right? You got to be patient. You got to kind of not be in a hurry to make the image, right? This is what we've talked about all semester in terms of trying to over-control an image. If you let the image grow in such a way that it's moving slowly, then you aren't jumping to conclusions and you're not being controlled by it. So here I'm just kind of laying some marks down here to just double check to see if I'm keeping those proportional relationships. So there's my front to back, and again, yes, there's one, and about a half, okay, a little under a half. So my front to back versus left to right is still in proper relationship to what I documented when I measured the actual bowl. And of course the front point is straight below the apex of the back point, and the two left and right points are right across from each other. I didn't put those cross lines on this one, right, because I wanted this drawing to have a different feel. But in my mind, see, I'm kind of checking that out. In my mind, I'm still seeing that there is a kind of symmetry to the drawing in terms of horizontal versus vertical. And again, this view, I'm looking right down into the bowl, right? Now, at this point, one might mistake that for a, cake or something, right? Just because I haven't kind of gone in and started to create the sense of the lip of the bowl yet, which I'm doing just a little bit, and haven't kind of created that shadow that's taking place on the inside of the bowl. There's a little kind of a shadow on the left side, so once I start doing that, it'll look like it's a concave form in there. So see how I'm kind of managing the edges, right, without drawing outline. And I know we love outline, so if you're struggle a bit with this drawing, that's probably a good thing. It's teaching you to see in different ways and draw in different ways. And the purpose of the class certainly is to teach you new ways of seeing and working. Shouldn't be easy. So, that's why I'm kind of showing you this technique, this method here of working through these really light scribbles. I probably have thousands, I don't know, thousands and thousands and thousands of little marks here that are accumulating, right, to create this image. And none of them are controlled by an outline. Now here I'm kind of restating the bottom edge a little bit just by going a little darker. So I'm kind of pushing that bottom edge down a little bit. You don't need to erase. In fact, I don't want you to erase here. I want you to work so lightly that you can kind of just move edges around by going darker in different areas than you had planned. So I just kind of lowered the curve of that front bottom of that bowl a little bit by just darkening a little lower than I had anticipated, i.e. creating an edge in just a slightly different place than I had anticipated to begin with. So also notice how I'm moving around the drawing, right? Not staying in any one place as I draw this. Just kind of continually moving. Of course, I worked fast. It's like I said, a 4-hour drawing, but I didn't work as fast as this video indicates. But I was moving nonstop. I'd do an hour segment, and then load the video in, then do another hour and load the video, etc. So, that hour that I'm working nonstop. And the reason this view is a little more elevated is because of the setup. When I'm filming this, I'm kind of in the standing position, so I'm kind of looking down anyways at the scene. So this is a little bit more elevated view of the bowl. Probably when you draw your bowl, you wouldn't see as much. It wouldn't be that full, right? It'd be more like the other video that I showed, a little bit more of a side view, maybe if you're sitting down and drawing it. But here I'm kind of just looking right down inside of it. Still, it's not a full circle though. But it's gotten pretty close to being one probably. So there's the cast shadow, just kind of controlling that edge of that curve by filling in the cast shadow behind, and then there's the modeling shadow there on top, on the side of the bowl. Now you can kind of see how I'm starting to develop just a little bit of a lip around there, right? I left it alone because I'm shading the inside of the bowl, right? So when I'm stopping short of that lip to create the thickness of that bowl as it moves around. It's kind of a magic to it. So it's a nice way of working because it slows your eye down. You think about this idea of touch, right? Sensitivity to the material, to the paper. And you kind of, the beauty of the drawing is that sense of touch. If you practice this, it takes a while to learn how to do this, but once you learn how to do it, you're set. All right, I'm just kind of cleaning that edge up there a little bit. So you see the old you, or the old me, when I didn't first learn how to draw, would have outlined this thing and then been stuck kind of with that, that hard outline. Not really, but just psychologically at any rate, right? And so it kind of creates a staid quality to the drawing, I think. But if you work this way, it's like you're breathing onto the paper in a certain way. It's almost like you're whispering into the drawing because it's developing so slowly, and it just results in a much more sensitive, I think, drawing if we can learn how to draw this way without that safety net of drawing shape first. So it's almost like you're drawing form before you're drawing shape, which is an odd thing. And we talked about that before in terms of charcoal. It's constant, just constant tension, I think, between shape and form in art. and particularly in drawing and painting. So, there's a little bit left here, probably in the last half hour of the drawing, Of course, it's not going to be that long here, but, and so what you're left with is like something, I could probably work another 5-10 hours on this, right, as slowly as I'm working it. But the kind of philosophy I'm taking on the drawing is that it could almost be done at any point, right? Because it's the drawing, the process by which I'm making it is part of the language of the work. So, it's not ever totally done, nor is it totally not done. It's kind of always in this, it's always it has a sense of flux, a sense of movement. Now here I'm widening that arc a little bit, right? Just by kind of darkening up a little wider than I had anticipated. But that's the beauty of it. If you're patient enough, you can shift and move these edges. It just takes some discipline and some patience to learn how to draw this way. But once you learn to have that vision of knowing that you can amend the drawing as you go, then kind of the sky's the limit. But it takes a lot of study in terms of structure, right? There's a lot of structure buried under this drawing that I never really revealed, right? But it's under it. The visual measurement, the idea of modeling dark versus light, a lot of kind of structural issues going on here that aren't apparent in the drawing at first blush, but when it analyzes it, it is apparent. Kind of coming up on the end, and I think that's about it. So, so a finished drawing? No, maybe not, but 4 or 5 hours worth of drawing, yeah. Kind of building it in terms of form first, with the acknowledgement in my mind, at least, of shape, right? And certainly a proportion and a visual measurement. Okay, well, thanks much.